Welcome to Automated Testing. Is it a waste of time? I'd like to get to know you all a bit better, so I'm inviting you to fill out a super short poll to find out some of your experience with automated testing. Okay, we're coming up on the end of time here and got some interesting results. We ended up with quite a few. Most everybody has seen a test that's been a waste of time. Oh, sorry, didn't mean to restart the quiz. And almost everybody has seen one where the automated test has caught a defect before the human, which is great. And now we get back to starting on time. So I want to point out that this fellow is living the dream. He's sleeping while his automated tests are running. When he rolls into work, the test results will be there all lined up and ready for him to review. The question is, will the test results be worth reviewing? Let's find out. We all know that testing is good, so more testing must be better, right? And automating tests so we can test even more things is even better, right? Not always. So let's get into a little bit more about me. And I've got some experience with automated testing, and I have seen the automated tests catch things that the humans haven't, but not always. I'm going to take you on a whirlwind tour of when more testing is a waste of time, and why you don't need to worry about being replaced by a machine if you are a tester. Just so you know, I am not against testing. In fact, I've been working on automating tests for a decade, and I love automating them. However, there is such a thing as too much testing. Let's take a look while leaving plenty of time for your questions and comments at the end. I'm Barbara Kiszka. I get called in when there's a QA automation system that isn't delivering on what was promised. Like Mary Poppins, I come in, straighten the situation out with a spoonful of sugar, then go on to the next family that needs help. At BOSE Corporation, we are well into our third generation of QA automation for our websites. I spend a lot of time looking at the results of the automated tests. We have a lot of websites, the consumer e-commerce sites, the B2B sites, which support Amazon, Best Buy, and others, and our employee discount sites. Each of these is localized to a large number of countries. Think Peru, Hungary, Luxembourg, along with the big countries like US, Germany, and Japan. Altogether, we have about 200 websites to keep in good working order. We have a very creative team that is always coming up with new ways to bring people to our site and encourage them to buy our products, and they are good products. They keep our development team very busy. The QA team works alongside to keep things humming along with as few interruptions as possible. When I joined, they were having trouble releasing once a month. Now they release every 2 weeks like clockwork, which matches our sprint cadence. So let's get right to the point. There are times when the automated tests that you've spent so much effort creating are now just wasting your time. I've walked into situations where the tests are run so infrequently and the tests are breaking between runs because the system has changed, but no one has updated the tests. On the other hand, I've seen tests that run frequently that result in a lot of failures, but the failures turn out to be due to something wrong in the test environment. The failure would never happen in production. At one point, a team I was working with had 70% of their reported defects be due to the test environment. As you can imagine, the developers that received these bug reports eventually got really upset that we were wasting their time with ghost defects when they could be working on new features. Who could blame them? We then started assigning the tickets to the squad QAs first to verify the defects were real before taking them to their teams. Eventually, we got those test environments under control and reduced the false positive error rate. But anytime a test system produces more defects than it finds, that's a waste of time. Another common scenario is the system changes, the tests break because there's so many scripts to fix. The team postpones the maintenance to the point it never gets fixed. This is often due to cut and paste-itis. You see the same 4 lines of code broken into lots of different scripts because someone pasted it from a similar test. Ideally, the cure to cut and paste-itis is to fix the code in one common place, then have everywhere else call it. It is very helpful to have a senior developer on the automation team to make sure the testing code has parameters, good use of collections, and is generally robust and easy to maintain. In a recent case, we took 1,800 scripts that were country-specific and moved almost all the duplicated code into a much smaller number of country-neutral scripts, reducing the number of lines of test code that can break while keeping the same amount of coverage and making it much easier to add coverage for additional countries. One time, we were refining our credit card processing so customers would take fewer steps. The testing went fine on our top countries, but after we went to production, we found out we had a problem with New Zealand. It turns out they don't have credit cards on our site, just PayPal, and the change made it so PayPal was no longer an option. Oops. The issue was quickly fixed, and a few automated checkout tests were quickly updated to cover New Zealand by adding NZ in a couple places and the right test data, because we had the country-neutral test. It was really easy. Another big gotcha is running tests, but no one looks at the results. One place was running a label printing test once or twice a year as one small part of their regressions. A ream of paper was coming out of a printer in an office the group used to be in. Was that a waste? Of course it was. I'll get to more on reviewing the test results later. And the last point on this slide, it has to be easy to create a bug report if the automated test discovers a bug. If your automated tests are not set up to push a button to populate a bug report based on the test with all the evidence of the expected result and the bad result, then that's another waste of a human's time. Going further, the human is going to add value here if they can look at the pattern of tests that failed and give the developers a sense of scope for the issue. Are similar tests failing across all the countries? The same test account, just one credit card? But they need to be able to easily see that failure pattern rather than plodding along, reviewing one failed test at a time. More on that when we get to reporting. And look at that, we've started getting to reporting. When management buys into the idea that QA automation is good, they want a way to measure that the automation project was successful. Rookie managers might count how many scripts are automated and how fast. As we saw before, not all scripts are useful, and copy-paste scripts add more maintenance. Measuring the percent coverage of the manual test plan is a reasonable place to start, because in theory, that reduces the amount of time humans spend testing. They can sleep while the robots work, then check the results in the morning. Fine, but is the current test plan effective? What is it that we are really trying to do in QA? We're trying to keep defects from escaping into production where customers will see them. So let's measure how many defects escape into production. For each of these production defects, we should be able to trace back to what test should have caught it. In reality, not every bad behavior is reproducible in the test environment, so it's unlikely we will ever get to 0 production defects for a whole year, but we can still aim for it. Looking at this graph, there's plenty to dig into. First, I usually drill down by priority. Most of these are minors. We want to focus on catching the highest priority defects first. I also drill down by tribe and squad to see if there's a particular team that needs shoring up. I drill down by defect type. In our case, the defect types are code, configuration, content, or deploy to see if there's a pattern. There is a follow-on chart, which I don't show here, which tracks how early do we find the defect. If we find a defect in the nightly automated tests, it's a lot easier to find the change that caused it, and the change is fresh in the developer's mind, so it's faster to fix it. If the defect isn't found until the last stage of testing, or heaven forbid, production, then tracing it back to the cause usually takes longer, involves more people, and there's sometimes finger pointing that goes on along the way. Not finding defects early is another waste of time, so run and review the tests early and often, once they cover the key areas. When you don't find defects early, you spend a lot of time following up on defects instead of developing features, which are stories in this graph. So managers really want to see the features coming through. They don't want to see the team slowed down by defects. We want to see the story to defect ratio going up over time. Again, from this graph, we can drill down into the defects to see if there's a pattern to what's being missed and by whom. If there's a repeating pattern, then that is an opportunity to add some automated testing that's worthwhile. As mentioned before, we want to ensure the automated tests are run early and often. Ideally, the test should be built into your CI/CD pipeline with successful completion as one or more quality gates. There are other things you can measure, such as test cycle time, which should be going down so you can release faster and with more predictability. But keep a watch. If your testing takes 24 hours for your nightly regressions, you got a problem. Some other things you can measure are the number of staff hours per test cycle, the number of defects caught by automation versus by humans, the number of defects that are due to the tests versus due to valid issues in the application. These should show that the automation is pulling its weight. If not, then you may want to take a step back and rethink what and how you are automating. If you're at the beginning of your automation journey, or if you want to start over, I have some practical advice. Start small. Find one really important test for e-commerce that's usually a checkout in your biggest market with the most common method of payment. Now, for that one test, automate it and take it all the way through your build and test process. The normal temptation is to build the first test, then build a whole bunch more, then fit it into the build and reporting process. What happens with that approach is that inevitably, you'll find that you need to tweak how results are reported or what version of something is used. Then you must go back and change all the test code. And that makes you resistant to changing things for the better. If you start with one test and see how it looks each step of the way in all your reporting tools, the Jenkins build, Sauce Labs, Serenity, the visual compare, and the final test report roll up, then you'll get most of the kinks worked out with a minimal amount of rework. For visual comparisons, you're establishing the golden baseline. Make sure you run it a few times in a row and have the tests automatically passing if there are no meaningful changes. A corollary of this is make sure you have one test that's guaranteed to fail at each gate, the functional test and the visual test. If the test never reports a failure or your build doesn't break on failure, it isn't really a test. I'm a big fan of visual testing. It's fabulous when it works as designed, but to be honest, it is a lot of work to establish the golden baseline of correct results in a way that minimizes manual review later. At least in our websites, there's something changing all the time. Here's some tips on what to look for and what to use to make it less painful. Number one, make sure it's easy to spot what changed. Here, if you look at the screenshot on the right, the changes are highlighted in pink. There's just a little bit, it's easy to see, but to get there, I had to push a button and wait for a while to filter out everything that had just shifted just a little bit. Number two, make it easy for QA to mark it pass. Here, this is just a thumbs up. One thing I like about this tool is you can have more than one right answer. For example, part of the day we have online chat available, so the chat button shows up. Otherwise, it doesn't. This tool allows both screenshots to be right by having A/B results. Number three, make it easy to create a bug in your current defect reporting system. You should be able to configure it with as much information filled in automatically as possible, including steps to reproduce, the expected results, the actual wrong results, the date it happened, and then for icing on the cake, when was the last time it passed and the previous time it failed? Number four, if nothing changed and it passed last time, it should pass this time automatically. The same with failures. This is where we get the speed up. No human has to look at it, and we're still confident of the results. Number five, the trouble is things change all the time. At BOSE, our top navigation menu seems to change at least once a month, with Valentine's Day, Mother's Day, graduation, Black Friday coming and going from the menu. This happens on every page of our website. We don't want the test results for every page of our website changing and requiring a manual review for this one change, which is a total waste of time. So we add a filter through code on this section of the page. And I know it's hard to see, but it's right there at the top where the menu is. And this is an ignore menu. Then we add in just one test that doesn't use the filter because we still want to check that top navigation menu and make sure it's okay. We also add a filter for the bizarre voice review results, the stars that show up. And this one is a layout filter because the number and type of content should always be the same, though the colors across the stars may differ. On specific pages, we filter out things that are not pertinent to the test at hand so that we get a higher automatic pass rate. And number 6, again, starting small with a golden baseline helps to spot the places where automatic filters will save you a lot of work as you add more tests. Let's say you've been successful. Now you have a large, beautiful set of automated tests that return the correct results with a minimum of manual effort. Terrific! What if 100 tests fail? That's a lot of failures to go investigate, even though it's less than 10% of the total test results. Another key to avoid wasting time is organizing your tests and grouping the results so that you can see them in one page. Here we've organized by capability, such as checkout and navigation, and also by the country and channel, which is B2C and B2B. This page summarizes over 4,000 tests, but notice it's very easy to see the forest for the trees. One capability, services, has half its tests failing. One country, Japan, is also seeing a low pass rate. If we know instantly the scope, that there appear to be two different issues, and this is before we start diving deeper into the individual test results. This report is just an Excel file with macros that goes out and visits each Serenity report for a particular build and test run, then sums up the passes and fails as a percentage. There are over 100 Serenity reports, and it used to be very painful to visit each one. So Dinesh, if you're listening, nice job on this report. Thank you. Sauce Labs has a new failure analysis and insight report that uses machine learning to help you sift through a vast number of test results. You're welcome, Jane, helping you focus on where you will get the best bang for your buck when prioritizing what failures to investigate first. So keep an eye out on that new Sauce Labs report. And the big question that everybody always asks is, will I be replaced by automation? I'm sure there are high-level managers out there that think that more automation means fewer QA on staff. However, once you get an automation effort up and running smoothly, someone still needs to review the test results and follow up with reports. The human QA is the one who knows, oh, we've seen this before. I can find the previous ticket and link to it. Or if this is broken, let's see if this other thing is broken too. Or, oh man, this is a blocker. We've got to bring this to the attention of someone right away. The QA is also the person who updates the tests as new features are added and old ones are removed. The QA is the person who analyzes the production defects and designs tests to catch them so they don't reappear. The QA automator makes sure the tools are current and the tests don't fall behind. I've seen a few times where the cloud-based tools we were using spring a change on us with a month's notice that we need to change things on our end in order to have the tests keep working. So even cloud-based tools aren't maintenance-free. In the end, we'll always need a human to review and report the test results, even if none of the automated tests are wasting time. Effective automation provides key test coverage faster than humans and during their off hours so the results are ready to review at the start of the day, and those results can clearly show the scope of any failures. The good news is test cycle times can be reduced by pairing humans and effective automation, and that should make the higher-ups happy. I hope you now understand why not all automated tests are good. There is such a thing as too much testing. If that testing is broken or no one looks at the results, now you know that there is a smart approach to testing, which starts with knowing what you want to achieve, how to measure it, like 0 defects escaping into production, then making tests that will show you that you have accomplished your goal or not. Thank you. Time for questions. Oh, the best way to balance manual versus automated? You want the automated tests for things that stay fairly stable and you don't have to change a lot. And manual is going to be your exploratory testing. So when you get a new feature or a feature that's been changing, you want that manual testing to do the exploratory. Oh, I have a question. Do you think that about RPA and AI in testing, it may help? Well, definitely some AI in testing is going to help. But again, you need somebody looking at the test to make sure that you're testing the right things and that the results of the tests are right, make sense. I believe we had a keynote speaker who was talking about the AI and the modeling and all that. So it is a brave new world in that way, but still your QA skills are key. You know how to torture things and make them break. That is the key skill of QA. Go around breaking things and then complain. And you should still be able to do that with AI tests.